Your prank calls aren't gonna scare me, pal, okay? Something's been bothering me, and it always has since my grandma told me. The cops said Peter did it. And for years my grandma said the same, but I think she started to have doubts. Who the hell is this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome. It's Saturday, July the 3rd, 2021, 12:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. It's 4th of July weekend for our American brothers and sisters south of the border. I hope you are enjoying your 4th of July. Is everything open down there? Are you waving the American flag? Are you dressing up like the Statue of Liberty? I don't know what the hell's going on, but probably something like that going on. This is episode 186. I can't believe I've done 186 of them. Probably only about 4 of them are worthy of your time. But this is one of them. This is the 5th one. This is the 5th one that is worthy of your time. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really thrilled to have these two ladies on the show today because I've been on their podcast twice. Once in February, once just a couple of weeks ago, talking about It's Me, Billy. They reached out to me several months ago. They have a great name. No, they are not really whores. Just so people know, that is not who they really are. It is just a play on words. And folks, I would like to introduce you to Sharon and Mindy of the Whores Talk Horror podcast. Mindy on the left, Sharon on the right, and Audrey the cat, who is on Mindy's lap here. Sharon and Mindy and Audrey, how are you ladies doing?
We're good, thank you. Meow.
Thanks for having us. You've actually been on our show 3 times, Dave. You were an announcer for our horror movie awards episode.
That's right.
That's right. I was. I forgot about that. That is true. I forgot about that. Well, nonetheless, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I wanted to get you guys on. I've listened to a few of your shows, and you know, I really like the chemistry that you guys have. I like I love the name. I mean, anybody who thinks it's serious, like, I mean, come on. I mean, clearly you guys have been friends for decades, because only friends who have been friends for decades would be confident enough to put themselves out there with a title like Whores Talk Horror. You know, and I totally would do the same thing. I mean, you know, if whatever the male version of that would be. Man whore, maybe. Man whores talk horror or something. But yeah, you know, I want to, before we jump into your podcast and what that's all about, let's, you know, because there might be a lot of people who are watching or who will watch after the fact who are not, you know, they don't know about your podcast. They don't know about you guys. Let's go back first and talk about you guys, who you guys are as friends, Sharon and Mindy. You're in Chicago, by the way. They're in Chicago. I don't even know what the hell that was. But they're in Chicago, and have you, like, let's go back. When did you first meet? Have you always, you know, are you born and raised in Chicago? Is that your hometown? I mean, let's go back. Tell us the story of Sharon and Mindy.
Well, when I was 8 years old, I moved to a suburb south of Chicago, one of the south suburbs. And Sharon and I met in Mrs. Needham's 3rd grade class. And she was the only other 8-year-old who knew who Freddy Krueger was and was a fan. And that kind of sealed the deal for life.
Amazing. That is so cool. That's so cool. What a connection. You know, like, I can totally see that being a scene in a movie. Where like, you move to, the suburbs of Chicago and, you go to the school, you don't know anybody and you're there and you walk in and you're trying to make friends and this one girl pops up. I know who Freddy Krueger is. I mean, I could totally see that being, that was the catalyst. And here you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you remember about that interaction, Sharon?
I mean, I don't remember when we discovered that. We became friends first, but I think that like bonded us.
Right.
But like when we were in 3rd grade, instead of playing Barbies, we used to play Poltergeist. So Mindy had one of those like big old TVs like that would rest on the floor.
Right.
And we would turn it on to an off station and one of us would be Carol Ann and we'd go sit in front of the TV with all the, oh, there goes Audrey.
There goes Audrey. That's all right, Audrey. It's acceptable. It's the cat.
And then one person would like walk slowly up behind the other person and then put their hand on their back. And then the person who was Carol Ann would turn around and say, they're here. And then they would get like taken off into like the other world. And we'd have to throw them a jump rope that they would tie around their waist to pull them out, and then we would just switch and take turns doing that.
I don't think my mom's watching this right now, but she's probably just burying her head unknowingly because she still says, I can't believe I let you guys do all that when you were little.
Well, here's what I want to know. So obviously you both had a love of horror before you met each other. So Mindy and Sharon, where did your love of horror, what was the inception? What was ground zero for both of you separately before you met each other? How did you get into horror? Why horror movies? Although it's not unprecedented, usually you hear about, little boys, right? Little boys getting into Freddy Krueger and stuff like that. It's not as common to hear it from the girls. So how did that come to be?
So I think my mom, she's a fan of horror movies and true crime, but I didn't really watch too much with her, but she didn't stop me from watching anything. But she had a younger sister who was closer in age to me than she was to my mom. So she was my cool aunt who was a teenager and like my big sister. So she was the, I call her the bad influence aunt. And she would let me watch Children of the Corn and When a Stranger Calls, and she took me to go see Lost Boys in the theater when I was little, like when I was way too young, and she would let me watch all those movies with her, and I loved them and I loved being scared, and that's
just how it came. So something tells me that maybe was your aunt babysitting you at the time that she took you to see Lost Boys?
No, so I was basically a latchkey kid. My parents were divorced and my mom worked all the time. So I would spend a lot of time at my grandparents' house. And so my aunt, because she was still so young, she lived over there. So we would just, she would take me out with her. Like, I mean, she let me hang out with her and her friends. She was really cool. She was not, the typical older aunt or older sister that was like, you're the annoying little kid, get away. She kind of embraced it. And I think she kind of looked at herself as like a mentor.
Okay. I was just curious. I wondered because I was wondering maybe she was babysitting you. She's like, well, I really want to go see Lost Boys and I can't leave you home alone. So I got to do you.
No, I was already like in love with both the Coreys. And I'm pretty sure I was the one who was like, you need to take me to go see this.
Gotcha. Okay. Mindy, what about you? What was the catalyst that got you into horror movies?
My parents.
Okay.
My dad's a huge sci-fi fan, and my mom is a big true crime fan. But when I was about 3 years old, I distinctly remember my dad had all of the Star Wars like toys and figurines and stuff like that, and I would like set them up in our TV room and play with them. And my mom had recorded off of Channel 9 on our old school Betamax VCR that nobody had yet. She recorded The Haunting from 1963 by Robert Wise. And that cassette tape we actually had until like I was an adult out of college and my parents were packing up the house to move because I remember like the commercial breaks, even because we wore that tape out. I think my mom thought because you don't really see ghosts or murders in that movie, it was okay to play in front of a 3-year-old who she thought was not paying attention, but I very much was. And I was more intrigued by scary stuff after that. Plus, that's Shirley Jackson has obviously become like one of my favorite writers. That's one of my favorite horror films. But after that, it was Poltergeist.
Okay.
It was on TV and my parents let me watch it. And I remember my mom tucking me into bed going, "Are you sure you're not scared?" And I said, "No," but I was just curious about it.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I don't remember how I got to Freddy Krueger. I didn't get to see the Lost Boys in the theater though. That would have been awesome. But my mom actually also likes the Lost Boys. So she let me watch it when it came on TV.
That's so cool. So that's cool. So it was almost like there was this fate, you know, this unseen force drawing you guys together. You know what I mean? And so you met in third grade, or as we like to say here in Canada, grade 3. I made that point, I think, on my show the other day. I don't know where it started, but in the States, it's always you put the number before the grade. And then here in Canada, we always say the grade before the number. It's the same thing. It's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's like soda pop. We say pop, you say soda. So, although I was corrected by a few Americans in the comments saying, no, I live here and we say pop. And I'm like, okay, all right. Well,
oh no, in Chicago, it's regional. So we say
yes,
pop.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think on the East Coast, they say soda. And then I don't know what they say on the West Coast. They don't drink that shit on the West Coast.
They don't drink that shit out of there, no. So you're in the third grade. Now tell me, like, I mean, what was, you would get together at your houses, you would play horror movies and Poltergeist and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, and I remember distinctly, this was before, somewhere in the late 80s, maybe it was after Dream Warriors. I'm not 100% sure on this, but somewhere they finally came out with the Freddy Krueger costume, right? They had, like, you know, the styrofoam hat and the plastic knives, you know, on the glove and, you know, the rubbery mask. And this, I think, was before that. And I remember as a kid taking a winter glove, taping 4 Bic pens, like, to the glove. I mean, that in itself was a lethal weapon on a child. You could just inject somebody with ink. And I didn't have a hat, so I had like this top hat. Now a top hat. But in my mind, I looked like Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm out on my street in front of my house, and I got this winter glove with these Bic pens and this top hat, and I don't even have a sweater or anything. I'm just there, and I'm walking around. The neighbors must have been looking out going, what the fuck is that child doing? What is going on there? But when you're playing with your friends, in your mind, you look like him. You know what I mean? The power of a child's imagination is unbelievable. And in my buddy's, now to be fair, maybe all he saw was a winter glove Bic pen wearing top hat child. I don't know, but he was running away like I was Freddy. You know what I mean? So you guys clearly did that kind of stuff too. You know, as you know, you just said, you know, the Poltergeist and all that. Did you end up, after elementary school? Did you end up going to the same high school together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went to junior high together because we had a separate junior high. And then we went to high school together. And then she stayed in Chicago. I stayed in Chicago all 4 years for college, and she stayed here for
like one
or two, and then you left.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did go to the same high school, but Mindy, you left after 2 years. Is that what you're saying? Sorry,
no, for college after high school.
Oh, for college.
I went away for a little bit.
But you did end up going to the same college as me for like a year. But we never had any classes together.
Yeah.
Very cool. And what did you both take in college?
I was a photography major, which is why I'm now a nurse.
But that's so cool that you're a nurse. That is, look, I don't say, I know this sounds like such a cliche thing to say, but I sincerely mean this. I mean, anybody who puts themselves in a position where you are, whether you're and it doesn't mean there aren't bad doctors and bad cops and bad firefighters and look, there's always there's always bad people everywhere, right? But, you know, to become a nurse, to become a doctor, to become a firefighter, a paramedic, a police officer, you know, you name it, right? In a position where you are making a difference in somebody's life, I commend you for that. That's you know, you can just, you know, being a nurse, you're in a position where you literally can help save lives, but you can also have those bedside manners that can just help somebody feel comfortable, you know, and feel safe. And I think that's having that type of approach is very far and few between nowadays, you know.
Actually, don't work at the bedside. I do have to say I'm a non-clinical nurse, which is a thing.
Yep.
I never knew that.
But still, right? Like
Yeah.
still, the like my point still
Yeah.
Thank you.
stands.
I
You know,
appreciate it.
you're making a difference in people's lives. You know what I mean? And that's amazing. That's really
Thank you.
cool. So thanks to the photography course. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. Mindy, what about you?
I was a theater major, theater
Okay.
tech major, and did get to use that degree. Not so much anymore, but I worked with some fringe theaters in Chicago around
Cool.
the city, including a somewhat well-known one that did a late night show and still does, but virtually currently.
Yes, of course.
Every weekend. And then as a day job, I do internet stuff is the easy way to put it. I do web content.
I don't expect you. I mean, I'm not, not expecting you to tell me, the addresses of your work or anything like that. I was just curious on what you did.
Well, and it's interesting because I got into tech, like web tech stuff, because I worked for a nursing organization that did online prep classes for the NCLEX, which nurses take to get certified.
Very cool.
So that was kind of funny that worked out. I got Sharon, I think, free access to one of our courses at least.
Maybe. Yeah. You didn't get me any answers.
No, that I couldn't get.
It was a very hard test.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So, okay. So back to horror. So you guys are through your adult, you've stayed in touch, you've stayed best friends. What are some horror movies you guys have seen in the theater together?
Well, the last one we saw together,
Black Christmas,
was Black Christmas, the last one that came out,
the 2019 one.
That was the last one we saw before the pandemic. And before that, we've told you before how we feel about that one.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't really care for it.
But then that night we came home and needed a palate cleanser and watched Little Monsters on Hulu, which is a zombie movie with Lupita Nyong'o, who I don't think is human because she's so talented and beautiful.
She's incredibly talented.
But that's a fantastic fun, not as scary, but zombie movie. Mm-hmm. Just want to throw that out there.
So are there any other horror movies like in the past? What are some of the movies you guys have seen together in the movie theater over the years?
Midsummer.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we saw like all the recent Rob Zombie ones. We saw 3 from Hell together.
Yeah, right.
Did we see 31 together, or was that
no?
Just
that
Spencer
was I think you and Spencer.
Okay. Was it Insidious or Insidious 2?
The second Insidious 2. Sharon and I snuck some booze into the theater and had a few drinks and watched that, and basically just ogled Patrick Wilson for like 2 hours or whatever. Made little comments about it as we were sipping our wine.
Naturally, of course. I saw the first Insidious in the theater back in 2011, I guess it was. I thought the first Insidious was 2011, yeah. If you look at IMDb, it's actually 2010 because it had its premiere in 2010, but it had its wide release in 2011. And I really enjoyed the first Insidious, just as much as I enjoyed the first Conjuring. I thought was really good too. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we're not talking about me. So how did you guys get to the point of Horrors Talk Horror? I mean, where did this come from? I mean, where, you guys are living your lives, you're doing your thing, I know there's a lot of stuff you could probably tell me in between all that and this, but what was the catalyst that made you guys want to do this?
Well, actually, that harkens back to our junior high days, kind of. We read in junior high, Sharon and I and a bunch of our friends read the V.C. Andrews Flowers in the Attic series, books from back in the day. Great for junior high kids, incest, great read.
Of course.
All that.
But Lifetime made a series of movies about those books a few years ago.
That are amazing.
And Sharon and I got a lot of wine and she DVR'd the movies and we sat down and made commentary as we watched them. And Spencer was trying to work at the dining room table.
Who no one knows who Spencer is.
Oh, that's right.
Unless you know who we are already.
Spencer's
their lackey. No.
He feels that way sometimes, I think, but he's our wonderful producer and editor and
my
extraordinaire
husband.
And her husband.
And he also makes
and her husband.
And my husband. And he makes he's like active in the show, he chimes in here and there.
He does.
So he's great. But yes, he was working on something and listening to us make snarky comments, and was like, you guys should do a podcast, basically, because
Is Spencer in the room right now?
he is.
Does he want to walk behind you two and say hello? Oh.
He is here, and he announces his presence whenever he arrives.
Here I am.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There he is.
Knock
Now I
over.
have to go get some paper towels.
There we go. It's like Jerry Lewis coming in.
Right?
All right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
That's
Normally,
okay.
though,
It
but
happens.
yeah, it was all Spencer's idea, basically. That's how we got into this.
Yes, he encouraged us to do the podcast and helped us start it, and because he already had 2 podcasts of his own, so he helped us start it, and he's producing it and editing it, and yeah, we literally could not do it without him because I have very little tech skills, and
Right.
she's better than I am, but
I'm better, but for some reason, sound was never my jam. So I can run a sound design once it's already set, like nobody's business,
Right.
but doing what he does, nope, can't do it.
Right. So so it was Spencer's idea. He was in the other room. He was trying to concentrate. He heard you guys yibbering and yabbering, and he came out and he said, "Ladies, you should just do your own show." Is that what he said? Is that how it went down?
spot on.
I think,
It's like you were there, Dave.
yeah.
Ladies, do your own show.
Yeah. See,
there you
I'm
go.
telling you. You see, I can picture it. I can picture it right now. You
He
know,
sounds
and
just like Jerry Lewis.
ladies. Did you at all know, like, I know, did you contemplate doing, was it always just audio? Did you contemplate doing video? I know you have the YouTube side, which is only audio at the moment. Or do you feel like tell me more about how the name came to be, what after the ladies, you should do your own show. What happened next?
I came up with the name. It was the first thing that popped into my head. And
Is it because you had some wine, or do you think?
no, that's just how my brain works.
I got you.
And I was like, it has to be called Horrors Talk Horror because, well, I think the thing is that people who are lazy talkers like me and say horror and don't enunciate it, horror, people think like, oh, I like horror movies. Like, you like what?
Right.
I like
said that.
horror movies. Oh, horror movies? Okay, yes, I like horror movies. So I was always getting corrected myself for saying horror instead of horror. And then I just thought it would be funny to call it Horrors Talk Horror. And our tagline is, we're not really horrors, we just like wordplay. That's right.
I gotcha. I think I think we all have. I think there are some words that just, to actually say horror movies, I think everybody, even everybody in the chat room here, I think we all can agree that we've all been like, yeah, I'm just gonna watch a horror movie. You know what I mean? And you just say it like that,
In Toronto.
In Toronto. That's right. I always can tell that there's an American in the room when they go,
So you're from Toronto?
like, yes, and you're from. Okay, so you came up with the idea, and did you know what was the first? Well, first of all, how long have you been doing this, and what was the first episode that you did?
2 years, right?
2 years. We just, our 2-year episode is going to premiere this Monday, the 5th.
Very
And we're
cool.
doing, it's not all horror. We do true crime. We do ghost stories. We talk about different paranormal things. So this 2-year episode is going to be listener ghost stories. We had a bunch of great stories that listeners wrote in. And we love having people write their stories into us. We love hearing people's personal ghost stories. But then we also do episodes on like Twin Peaks because we're big Twin Peaks fans,
Yes.
and David Lynch, just anything weird, like we
Gotcha.
just did an episode about adults posing as teenagers and committing crimes as teenagers, just very like bizarre stories.
Was that based on that woman that posed as her own daughter at school or something like that?
That was one of the, was that the recent story? There was a recent story.
Yeah, there was some recent story about that.
About like a 29-year-old who went to try and get Instagram followers by going into a high school and posing as a high school student.
Yes, I read that.
Yeah. So we
That's
did
crazy.
tell that story, but then there was some other stories. One was a woman who posed as her daughter online to catfish guys and used sexy photos of her daughter without her daughter knowing, and
Oh,
even
that's
took
terrible.
like photos of her daughter, like up her daughter's skirts and stuff like that when she wasn't looking, and would post like videos of that.
What
to
mother
try and-
would do this?
I know. It's really fucked up.
It was one of the
Yeah.
ones where Sharon was like, I really want to do an episode on this. And then she was like, don't read my script. I want to get your honest reactions when I tell you these stories.
Right. Oh man.
Which were all, ugh.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. That's brutal. Do you remember the first episode that you did?
Yeah.
It was our childhood. It was basically how we got into horror, just like our favorite childhood movies. And I think it was a little bit about like what we've been watching around that time. Cause I think that's when Midsummer just came out.
Right.
And I think 31 by Rob Zombie just came out. So we did a little
Right.
discussion on that.
And then we told, I think, old ghost stories, like stuff that had happened to us.
Yeah. That might've been in that episode too.
Now you guys say you do true crime.
Mhm.
We do.
Have you heard of the Mara Murray case?
No, I don't think so.
Mara
Mara,
Murray?
I started listening to a podcast on it, and then that was so long ago.
It is one of the most rabbit hole cases you'll ever go down. It's about this. It's just about this. I mean, I don't want to turn this show into that, but for the sake of the Cliff Notes version, or as we say here in Canada, Coles Notes, it would be, there was this woman, young woman, 21 or whatever she was, in 2004, who left UMass in, I guess that's Massachusetts, New Hampshire, somewhere. And I think she drove north. She had said to her college, her professors, that there was a death in the family and she was going to take a week off. There wasn't a death in the family. Her family doesn't know why she said that. She took off north towards the White Mountains in New Hampshire, I believe. And then she got into some sort of accident, not like a major accident, but it was winter, it was 7:30 at night. Her car was on the side of the road in this kind of desolate rural area. A bus driver, school bus driver, drove by, saw her, asked if she wanted help. She said, no. I've called AAA. The bus driver knew that was impossible because there was no cell service in the area. Again, this is 2004. And he was like, that's kind of weird. So he went down the street to where he lived. And like, the gist of the weirdness is that she's in this rural area. There's a few homes in the area. By the time somebody called 911 who saw her car, and by the time I'm giving I'm sure Mara Murray hardcores would be like, well, actually, Dave, it was, and it's like, well, I'm giving the real gist of it, The gist of it is that she had this little accident. She was outside of her car. In the time that the bus driver saw her and the time that the police showed up was like all of 7 minutes or something like that, right? Something like that. And she was gone. She was nowhere to be seen, no footprints into the snow. Now you would assume, well, somebody must have picked her up, but who and what are the odds that somebody that would do her harm happened to be the one driving by at that time?
Yeah.
And it's one of the weirdest. She's never been found to this day. Never been found to this day. It was like she literally just spontaneously just gone. And I've gone down so many rabbit holes, and there's so many well, what about the cops, or what about the bus driver? There's suspects. It's like a movie in and of itself, and there's so many suspects or potential suspects and theories and this. Well, then there's that woman and person A on house B, and you got the pins with the string, and you're doing all this kind of stuff. It's wild. I think there was like a 4-hour documentary on it on Oxygen a couple of years ago. There was it's a huge case that has not been solved today.
I think the podcast is just missing Mara Murray.
Missing Mara Murray. That's the podcast.
And they do
That's
a real deep dive. And I had listened to it a while back, but then with those kind of cases too, if you kind of fall off the wagon and you want to get back into the story, you kind of have to start over.
Yeah,
we had some listeners write in, and we did do 2 cases similar. One was Brandon Swanson, who is an American who, same kind of thing, was leaving a party after graduating high school out in sort of a rural area, called to inform family that like his car broke down, again, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And same thing, like long story short, missing, nobody knows what happened.
That's some of the creepiest ones, are the ones where people go missing in a time frame that is so short.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again. No trace of them, no DNA, nothing. Now, Occam's razor tells us, logic tells us that she had to have been picked up. I mean, she wasn't, out of the air by alien. I mean, obviously somebody must have picked her up, but it's just, if that's true, and it wasn't somebody she knew, and it was a bad person, what are the odds that a bad individual at that moment, it's not the car behind him, it's not the car ahead of him, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, what are the odds? And that is kind of weird too. What are the odds that some serial rapist or killer happened to be the one that, that, talk about bad luck, in the middle of nowhere too. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to go off on a tangent there, but when the true crime stuff, and there's a lot of them out there, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. That's cool that you guys talk about that too, in addition to a lot of the horror movies and things like that. So what would you guys say is your, and I know I didn't tell you this, or I didn't ask you to prepare for this, so it's okay if you're like, oh, I'm not really sure. But usually we have a top 3 or 5 in our Rolodex, always in our mind. And sometimes it changes. But what would you say are your favorite, top 3, top 5 favorite horror movies?
Oh, man. Well, I always have to throw in there, and I almost wore my Shirley Jackson t-shirt today because the original, The Haunting 1963, Robert Wise, always will be my favorite adaptation of that book. Though Mike Flanagan's I guess his take on it for Netflix, I really enjoyed, because it was fresh and new and not just a bad remake like that 1999 version, which could be a scary
with Liam
movie.
Neeson and Owen Wilson.
I know, right? How weird. It's a scary movie, but not for the reasons that I think it's supposed to be.
Right. What about you,
I'll just throw that out there.
You're just going with one?
Well, I know that like Halloween is another one, but we share that, and the original Nightmare on Elm Street is always in my heart, just because that was the original. That's why I looked at you, because
I mean, I would have to say, depending on my mood, I would say Black Christmas.
Well, yes. See, I keep thinking that these are things that are taken for granted. I got to remember.
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Shining, probably.
Good choices.
Also, like very, very close up there, I would say The Lost Boys. And I love House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. Like, those 2 movies I just think are so unique, and I love Rob Zombie, so.
And when you say Black Christmas, you're talking about
the original.
Absolutely,
right.
the original.
Not the 06 remake or the...
Which we did watch, because I had never seen the 06 version. And I was so disappointed that it was done by, his name is escaping me right now, but he's one of the writers and creators of The X-Files. The guy who did the 2006 version. And I love his brother actually would write for the X-Files too, and he was one of my favorite writers on that show. But I was so disappointed by that when I saw that he was behind the 2006 version, because we didn't really care for that movie.
Yeah.
Or it's a new one.
No, I will say though, I do give credit where credit is due, and in the sense of that it isn't, at least it's its own thing. And they didn't just remake it verbatim per se. I mean, it is its own thing. Now, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie's films. It's just not my style per se. And I'm not a fan of his 2 Halloween films either. But, I'm, looking at it objectively, I say, well, he he did his own thing. I mean, that at least is commended. It's not for me. I'm not really into his style of filmmaking. He seems to be very, in my opinion, very sort of just kind of always having there's a certain style to his films, and he brought that to Halloween, and it just wasn't for me, but he made it his own. And, there's a certain level of, you got to go, well, he made it, he made it his own.
I like the feel of his movies though, because he's really good at making it feel like it was made in the 70s. He keeps that aesthetic to it. And I mean, there's a ton of similarities between House of a Thousand Corpses and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, he was really inspired by that. But I love 70s horror, and I like that he's able to pull off 70s horror, but now,
I'm still, and I think, I believe, and I stand to be corrected, but I believe Rob Zombie at some point said he wasn't interested, but I do stand to be corrected on that. But if he didn't say that, and I am surprised that he's the one they didn't approach for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. I mean, obviously we are getting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake now. I think it'll be out next year or later this year, whatever it is. Or not the remake. Well, it kind of is, but it's a direct sequel to the original. And I've always thought that he would have been, that's his style. I mean, put him in charge of a Texas Chainsaw film. But maybe he's not interested. Maybe he doesn't want to do that.
Well, now he's doing the Munsters. So I'm very curious to see if he's going to go in a new direction or keep his style, or how that's going to be done, because that's a lot different than anything he's ever done before. It's a lot more lighthearted.
How would you feel if it was Rob Zombie-fied?
Dave, I'm kind of with you. I'm not the biggest Rob Zombie fan. I do appreciate though that he is bringing he's doing his own thing, and he's bringing his own style, and he has his own unique voice. So I can kind of go either way personally, because I'm not like super tied to the Munsters either. Right. I watched it in reruns as a kid.
Yeah, same.
I think it would be, I don't think a lot of people would like it if it was Rob Zombie-fied, but I do think I would watch it. I'd be like, this is going to be interesting one way or the other. Yeah,
because it's kind of like, is it going to be very, is there going to be a lot of like, white trash, is this a white trash Monsters movie,
I don't think so.
Or I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know. No, I hope not. I hope not. But I don't know. There's a lot of that angle kind of to it. Although he casts his wife a lot in his films.
Yeah.
I loved his Instagram post where he's like, he said so, or maybe it was just a meme, maybe it was a joke. I don't know. So I stand to be corrected. It might have been a joke. But if he really did say this, I think it's funny. I saw like a meme or a post where it said, I've looked at 400 something women for what's her name, Munster, the lady. Lily Munster, thank you. I've looked at 400 women for Lily Munster, and I've come to the conclusion that my wife is best. And I'm like, well, I could have told you that before. You cast your wife at everything, Rob. Like, I mean, you didn't look at 400, but give me a break. I mean, maybe if the studio, maybe it was a prerequisite. They're like, Rob, we know you love to cast your wife, but can you please at least look at these people? You know what I mean? And I'm just like, come on, Sherry was always going to be Lily from the get-go. There's no way anybody else would have been. So I just thought that was kind of funny how he's like, oh, I've looked at a lot of people, but I just got to go with my wife, and I'm like, get out of here. I thought it was kind of funny.
I don't have a problem with it. I like her. I like
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, look, haters gonna hate, right? And I've been very vocal on my channel because I'm very animated and theatrical, and that's part of my shtick, to think, oh, that's dog shit, or that's Rob Zombie's that movie was dog shit. It's just part of the I guess my brand, I guess, in some weird kind of way. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to look at things objectively and really look at it without all the theatrics behind it, he's doing his thing. And he should be commended for it. And I don't like a lot of the movies he does, but there's an audience out there for it. And he casts, right, exactly, right? And he casts his wife Well, who wouldn't do that? I mean, if you have that kind of a relationship and your wife is really into that
Yeah.
and she loves being a part of it and she's like, yeah, let's do it. I'll be in all your movies. Well, why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
I mean, why wouldn't you do it? Like, I mean, of course, and she's good and she's not, taking away from anything that I think, yes, it might feel sort of like, oh God, he's always got his wife in there to those who don't particularly like his movies. But, I do it too. It's, so yeah. What would be your favorite Rob Zombie movie, Sharon?
It's either House of a Thousand Corpses or Devil's Rejects. I mean, Devil's Rejects is a better movie, but House of a Thousand Corpses is just so like, there's nothing like that.
Just
I mean,
so off the wall.
I did say it's very similar to Texas Chainsaw, but there's so many unique elements that I've never seen in any other horror movie, and the characters are all amazing, and the music and just like everything about it. I've talked about this on our show before, but I used to put that movie on every night to help me fall asleep.
Really? Okay. So
Comforting
now
for some reason.
I was just going to say, this is interesting. There's a coziness to it for you.
Yes.
There's not guilty pleasure, because that's usually but it's a comfort. There's it's a comfort film.
Yeah.
It's a comfort film. That's so fascinating. Yeah. And everybody's got those. One of my comfort movies, this is really weird. One of my comfort movies is The Burbs.
Yes.
With Tom Hanks.
That's a comfort movie for me too.
Yeah. It's just something that you can put on. You don't have to really pay attention to it. It's just there as sort of background noise, or when you're kind of lying in bed, you got your eyes shut, you kind of hear it in the background. Totally. Yeah, that's funny. And so House of a Thousand Corpses is that.
I mean, I have a lot of them.
I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
I think that I laugh not because I just think it's it's a little unorthodox, right? Oh, I need to get to sleep. Can we put on a House of a Thousand Corpses, please? Do you mind if we do that? I just think that's so cool. That's funny. Does Spencer approve? Does he find it as cozy as you?
Wait, did you ask me? Sorry.
No, I was asking if Spencer found it as cozy as you.
I don't know, Spencer. Do you find that movie cozy? He's cat wrangling right now. Audrey.
Okay.
Audrey's really trying to get on camera and tear apart the computer. So
well, I mean,
Spencer's doing his best.
Audrey's the star of the show.
Yeah. It's not as comforting to me as it is for her, but I do enjoy it. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Also,
I will say that
I can't go to sleep with something playing. I have to pay attention to it.
Right. Yeah. As I said, I'm not a big Rob Zombie fan, but his two movies that you mentioned, Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, I actually don't mind those. I actually can watch them and get into what the presentation is. I think especially House of a Thousand Corpses, because it's so extreme that it is what it is. You know what I mean? So you watch it for that. You shouldn't be under any unrealistic expectations. But that's interesting. That's cool. That's really fascinating. So, okay. So your Horse Talk Horror podcast, what episode are you up to now?
We just recorded our 100th episode a few weeks ago. So we're like 102, 104. Yeah. 104, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Wow. So what are, me excluded, what are some of your favorite guests you've had on, and why?
Carrie Weeder.
And
you and Carrie Weeder both of you have been on twice.
Right. She's been on twice. Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, you both been on 3 times. She was also a presenter for our horror movie awards episode. She's an actress in LA. She does a lot of voiceover work for podcasts. There's a podcast called The Gloom. And
in another room
that she's like the main voice in those. She's fantastic. She's hilarious.
Amazing.
But she wrote our Tidbits of Terror theme song. We do every month a little Tidbits of Terror episode, which is this is stuff coming up that we heard about, what we're watching now. And she just randomly sent us this amazing,
it's a jingle,
weird jingle that's hilarious. And I was like, I think I said it was like the Muppets meets The State, that comedy show from the 90s on MTV, meets They Might Be Giants. That's basically the sound It's pretty awesome.
Right.
And you
right.
are honestly one of our favorite guests.
Yes.
You told two of the best supernatural experience stories we've ever really heard on our show.
Well, it's probably because I never shut up. So I shut up, Dave. No, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that. So, okay. Now, who else has and folks, let's be in mind here. If Sharon and Mindy don't mention your name, it doesn't mean they don't think you're an amazing guest or something like that. Some guests stand out over others for a variety of different reasons. I just didn't want you guys, if you have a former guest that's watching, going, why didn't you mention me? There's a variety of this just don't, it's not personal. It just, sometimes there's people that you're like, oh, that was a great person, or, that was a great guest. I just want to say that because sometimes people miss the nuance of that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, you start your YouTube channel, you put yourself out there, people take everything so literally. What are some of your favorite topics that you've discussed?
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, we haven't had too many Twin Peaks episodes yet, but we've had a few.
We've had 3, and I can talk about Twin Peaks all day long. It's my
amazing
favorite thing ever.
Well, and there's a lot to talk about, which is what makes it interesting too.
And David
Lynch, and would you classify Twin Peaks as horror?
Well, it's definitely true crime, but it also blends the paranormal, and there are some very scary, horrific episodes. Like,
oh my God.
If you search the top 10 most horrifying, scary TV moments ever from broadcast television, there's 2 scenes.
There's 2, I think, of off
from
the top of my
Twin
head.
Peaks that always pop up in those top 10 lists that are absolutely horrifying. Which is another reason we kind of love it, because when you watch the original series, there are some scenes that I still watch from the first 2 seasons that scare the crap out of me. And then when you think that this was on network television in the 90s during prime time, we were watching it when we were way too young probably to do so, but my mom loved mysteries, and so we were like, "Ooh, this new show's going to be on. Let's watch it." And then got into it. I would, especially the 3rd season, I would say it's horror. I would classify it. It can be. I think everything David Lynch does though can fall into that category. I mean, my favorite movie of all time. I mean, you asked for my favorite horror movie of all time, which is those are classic horror movies. But my favorite movie of all time is Blue Velvet, which honestly I think kind of crosses that line over into horror very much so. And if you were to ask me who my favorite horror director is, I would probably say David Lynch. I mean, he's my favorite artist director ever. He's just the best.
Have you ever thought about is this your friend out in California, Mohammed Ramadan?
Yes.
Mohammed Ramadan.
Yes.
He says time for a Twin Peaks spin-off podcast.
Oh, I mean, we just might do more Twin Peaks
presented
episodes.
To you by Horrors Talk Horror. I'm just saying, I mean, maybe
Possibly. If someone wants to fund us to make that, if someone wants to pay us to quit our day jobs, we will do that.
Right.
There are a lot of them out there too.
Yeah, I bet.
Already.
There are a lot of Twin Peaks podcasts.
But there aren't the Horrors Talk Horror presents Twin Peaks podcast. Okay. All right. I want to no, actually, before I get to that, let me ask you this. Do you have, in terms of the podcast, and the podcast can be downloaded wherever podcasts are downloaded, correct? Like Apple iTunes, Spotify, all that. And you also have a YouTube channel as well. Just Horrors Talk Horror YouTube channel, which you can go to and listen to the podcasts there. What is your, for me, I never really had a plan for this YouTube channel. I have had this channel since 2006, but I never really did anything with it. And then it was in 2017 when the new Halloween 2018 was announced, and that was getting going, and I needed a place to vent and talk about stuff. And so I just jumped on my channel. It was really more of a way for me to just kind of get it out, like how you would write something down and then, you walk away. I just needed to kind of just get it out there. I never really had a plan, and I really still don't. For you guys with Horrors Talk Horror, do you have a plan? Do you have a goal? Is there something you would like to achieve with it? Have you achieved, what sort of milestones have you achieved that maybe you did set out to achieve with the podcast? And where would you like to go? Or are you just like, no, we're just, you know what, we're having a good time. It's a way for us to talk about the things we love, and whatever happens, happens.
I mean, I literally thought we would do just a few episodes and then we would have something fun to listen to in the nursing home when we were like old and couldn't do anything and be like,
Sharon, do you remember this episode?
you're like, we were so funny and we would say so many swears.
I'm sorry. How old were we gonna be when we sound like that?
About 95, dear. Sharon, yes, Mindy.
95.
95, dear.
I'm still.
You got to have
gonna
the, that's what you have to have after every word.
Yes.
if I sound like that when I'm 95, I'm gonna kill myself.
I just hope I make it to, if I can make it to 95, I'll be glad.
Right.
I'll fine. I can sound whatever the way I want, you know?
No, I sound a little bit like Billy when I'm 95. I think.
Maybe,
Just a hint of
maybe.
Billy.
Just a very small hint of, yeah, possibly,
Maybe.
possibly.
Yeah. You do a good Edith Bunker, so
Oh yeah.
which we won't do now, but
Archie.
Archie.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's got to be more. That's true. It's got to have more of that in there. Yeah, very good, Sharon. Very good. I'm impressed. You're hired. Hire this woman. What the hell was I asking? Oh yeah, what are you?
what are our plans?
What are
These
our
are our
plans?
plans.
Right. What are your plans? Do you have any plans? Do you have you had little goals that you did accomplish, or are you just, like I said, you're just kind of like, no, we're just having a good time and seeing where it goes?
I mean, yeah, kind of. We're having a good time, seeing where it goes. We have actual patrons, which I'm like, people want to
Amazing.
give us money each month to, support us, which is amazing. And we love our patrons. And Kevin, I know you're probably listening, so hello. He's a fan of yours as well, Dave.
Oh, well, hello to Kevin. Shout out to Kevin, my man. Okay.
What else? I think, Jennifer Lynn started following us on Instagram. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty
You're done.
fucking amazing.
Yeah. Clancy Brown, who's in like tons of horror movies and television and everything. He won for Best Supporting Actor in our first ever Horse Talk Horror award show that we did at Oscar time. And he actually responded to our Instagram post about him, which I was like jumping up and down.
Very
screaming. Cool. Should we talk about the infamous email?
Oh,
Because I feel like this was like the moment where I was like, we did a long multi-episode deep dive into Mike
that
Flanagan.
infamous email. Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you were talking
wait a minute. You mean there's an even better infamous email?
We got a hate email. But
Listen,
it had nothing to do with our show. It had to do with our politics.
Which
I've had many hate emails.
Okay.
Just look at my hate mail videos.
We've arrived. We got a hate letter. Woohoo.
Yep, that's
this is a much better
Oh,
story,
yeah.
much more positive story. But we did a deep dive on Mike Flanagan's all of his work. And we kept joking, Mike, if you're listening to this, blah, blah, blah. Well, he did start following us on Twitter, we noticed, which we were like, okay. And then I was literally getting out of the shower one day and my phone is like buzzing. And it's Sharon trying to call me. And I'm going, well, I'll call her when I'm done with what I'm doing.
And I'll jump in.
And then she leaves me a voicemail.
But before we even get to that, so I'm at home and I'm going through my email and I just see Mike Flanagan. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. Open up the email. Hi, Sharon and Mindy. Mike Flanagan here. And I like scroll down, I skipped. It was a huge email. So I was like, holy shit.
Of course.
Holy shit. And I look at the bottom and I see, it looks
It's
official.
Yeah.
And Spencer is recording his podcast. So we have all this recorded. He's recording his podcast in another room. And all of a sudden, I'm like, holy shit. I open up the bedroom door where he's at. I'm like, holy shit. Mike Flanagan just emailed us. Holy shit. And so you just hear me in the background going, holy shit. I close the door and I'm like running around the apartment, like freaking out, going, holy shit. And Spencer's just like, be quiet. Be quiet. Like, I'm still recording. Be quiet.
Okay, holy shit. Can you take it outside, please? No.
And I'm calling Mindy on the phone, just letting it's ringing. And I'm just like, holy shit. And goes to her voicemail. I'm like, holy shit, Mindy. Mike Flanagan just emailed us. Holy shit. Call me back.
I don't think even you said even that. You were like, just don't check the email before you call me. Just call me. Don't check the email. And so Mike Flanagan wrote us a really lovely email. He actually listened to our episode.
That's
like,
great.
All of them.
So like almost in 3 hours of us talking about him.
And he was just like, thank you for putting so much thought and humor into, your analysis of, and we were like, what is happening right now?
We covered like every movie he ever did, and we covered The Haunting of Hill House, and this was before Blind Manor came out. And then he actually indulged a few secrets of like upcoming things he's working on, which we have like never told anyone else. But yeah, I like read the email out loud when we got Mindy on the phone, and me, Mindy, and Spencer were all like sitting together and read it. And I was just like, okay, we can end the podcast here. And I'd be like, fine. This is like more than I ever thought. Like Mike Flanagan, one of our favorite directors, knows that we're alive.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's great. And it, if there's one thing you never know who's watching and you never know who's listening. And, I've had interesting people reach out to me over the years too, that have watched me, listened to me. I'm sure there's a lot of people that also don't like me. It's just kind of the nature. That's just nature of the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it is cool, and so that is really cool. And he took the time to write you, a nice long one and complimented you. And that's, again, it's so people understand it. And I sincerely mean this. I wanted to have you guys on the show, not just because I wanted to, you've had me on your show. I'd like to get you on my show. It wasn't just for that. It was, you guys are, intelligent ladies in the horror space. And I sincerely mean that. And it's refreshing. Not that there aren't others. I'm just saying that there's that stereotype, that you often see. And women, it's tough because women are so sexualized, even in horror, as well, go to a horror convention, and not that it's not fun to dress up and you got it flaunted, right? I get it. But it's nice to be able to listen to two ladies who are horror fans, who've grown up with horror. And when you listen to your podcast, you're not just talking about your favorite likes or, dislikes. You're analyzing the film, and you're talking about cinematic language. You're talking about symbolism. You're talking about, how it made you feel and what that means to this and all that. And I appreciate it's not, and again, that doesn't mean that there aren't other ladies out there that don't do it too, but I haven't come across, it's far and few between. Like you see a lot more men doing the podcasts and the shows and the deep dives and the, all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted people to be aware of you because it's, you guys are, and the chemistry you have as well, it's like myself and Bruce, when we're on together, you can feel it. You can tell, well, these guys have known each other a while, because there's a certain sort of natural ebb and flow to our conversations, and we can joke, we can tease each other at each other's expense, and it's not serious. And you get that vibe with you guys as well. Like you guys are teasing each other all the time, and it's just fun to listen to. You can tell that you really love and appreciate each other.
I was going to say, listen to our trivia episodes. She's like in it to win it, and I'm just trying to be funny.
Sharon's the competitive one here, folks. Sharon's the competitive one. But I really appreciate that sincerity. It's you're not thinking about. And again, I don't pretend to know what's going on in your minds, but how it comes across is I don't feel like you are. We got to compete. You're just being yourselves, and that comes across, and it makes it much more fun for the listener, and I just want to say that I didn't want to forget saying that because that is part of the bigger reason of why I wanted to have you on.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, you don't, it's good shit, guys. It's good shit. Like you got to listen to their shows. It's fun. Even if maybe whores talk horror,
it's good
whores
shit.
talk horror. It's good shit. Maybe it'll become your cozy thing that you go to sleep to. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe it might become your. I'm just saying. I was listening. What one was I listening to? Oh, it was mine. No. I'm just kidding. No, there was one I forget which one it was. It was a little while ago now. There was one I was listening to at night in bed, and I fell asleep, not because it was boring, but because I was really into it. And then I found myself going, oh shit, I fell asleep. I got to go back. You know, I forget which episode it was though. I was listening to it off of Spotify on my phone. I forget. Well, anyway, it'll come to me.
We think we're funny, so it's just
you
nice
guys are.
to hear that other people do too.
Yeah, I do, because I recognize good chemistry, authentic, yeah, and that's tough to find. When you want to do a show with somebody and you want to, you know, sometimes people can be the best of friends, but not the best of co-hosts. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because there's a certain level of energy and there's a certain level of when you are co-hosting a show, you are by default performing. Now, there's different levels to performing. You know, some people are more extroverted, some people are more introverted, some people, you know, there are people that watch me that can't stand me, but it's not that they can't stand but it's not the information. It's that it's you know, they're more introverted. I'm more extroverted. I'm more, you know, I'm quite the presence. But they could go watch somebody else, and that somebody else could relay the exact same information, but it resonates with them better because they're a little more subdued and laid back. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you can get two friends that are like that are co-hosts, and it doesn't really jive or it doesn't whatever. So it can be tricky. Just because you get along with somebody doesn't mean you can be the best of co-hosts. But you guys knock it out of the park.
Shit.
It's great. And Audrey is somebody who also wants to be in on the game. She's made an appearance.
Wow.
Clearly she wants to be a star and is already.
I'm surprised my cat hasn't made her way into the room here, but I think it's cool. I just wanted to say that. I sincerely mean that. I'm not kissing butt. I sincerely mean that. You guys are amazing.
Well, that means a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
It means a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. So anyways, we kind of answered it, but kind of didn't. We had the Mike Flanagan thing. That's amazing. Any goals for the podcast? Like anything like shows you want to do? Other guests you'd love to have on?
I would love to have David Lynch or Jennifer Lynch on the show. That would be, or Mike Flanagan. That would be amazing.
Well, you should reach out to him and ask him.
Yeah.
I mean, hello. Hi ladies. Love your stuff.
What else? We are recording an episode today, a little bit later after this, about the history of Scooby-Doo.
I love Scooby-Doo.
I love Scooby-Doo too.
I love it.
And I was like, I need to record an episode about the history of it because I just like randomly looked up the history of it, and it actually has a pretty fascinating history. It does. I'm like, all right, this is a show topic. You know, there's some times where I'm like, we have 1 week to record and we have nothing.
Right.
And like, I'll think of an episode on the fly and then like frantically do research all week. And write up a script, and we kind of wing it sometimes.
That's so cool. I am a big Scooby-Doo fan.
All right, well then you're gonna have to listen to that episode.
Yes, I am.
And this is another one I was told not to look at any of the script for because she wants my honest reactions.
Yep.
Well, Scooby-Doo, I actually have the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, right? The 69 to 71 or whatever it was. The original cartoon, the first run. I have it on DVD. And that's a comfort thing. And I was, my girlfriend and I were watching it. I think yes. Although not that packaging. I have a different packaging.
Just
but
like
that's
kind of falling apart.
Yeah. But those episodes. And I think we were watching over the holidays. And I remember we'd turn to each other and we'd be like, you know, a lot happens in an episode. Like they go through so much in an episode. Like, how would you even explain an episode to somebody? And then Scooby and Shaggy were like hanging on the ceiling. And then there was like this underground tunnel. And then there was this like bat that came in. And then there was an explosion. And then they were at the museum. And then they went to a park. And then there was like this elephant that came. Like, there's so much that happens in like 22 minutes. It's insane, but it's great. I love those old episodes. That's really cool. And so you're recording that today?
We're recording that today. So it's going to be history of Scooby-Doo. Also the obvious, like, you know, drug references that, people think were purposely put in the case.
Right.
Some of the sexual innuendo between like Daphne and Freddie. I also have some trivia.
There's massive sexual innuendo.
I picked up on that when I was like 7.
Yeah. Which
Like-
I would actually argue that might be another reason why, like that might be another inspiration for why we like horror so much, because
Yes.
I was a big Scooby-Doo fan as a kid too. And the idea
Right.
of mystery and ghosts, even if it wasn't a real ghost and there was an explanation at the end.
Right.
It's horror light.
Yes.
And then there's crazy fan theories out there that I found out. Like just, I don't know how people came up with this.
Shaggy's high all the time.
Beyond that though, there's like
Come on, Scoob.
it's pretty good.
Well,
That's good.
And then because I was saying to Sharon, and it's not really applicable to this episode so much, but I'm one of my first, like baby's first indie movie was Slacker by Richard Linklater. And there's that
Right.
whole Scooby-Doo philosopher who talks about how like Scooby snacks are really teaching children how to like barter and how to raise the price and bottom
Right.
line. And so I'm getting ready for these conspiracy theories. And I swear I thought it was that movie, but it's not. But I heard somewhere somebody had this theory that kids like Generation X and afterwards say like all the time because Shaggy conditioned them as children.
No, I think I did come across that in my research. I think you're right. Yeah.
Like Scoob.
Exactly.
That's really good.
I love when
Spencer has
everything
outtake
is
of
an
me
R.
saying like.
Yeah, everything's an R. Ruh-roh, and then he's like, Raggy. And you're like, Raggy? Raggy. It's so good. Fucking love. I love that. I love that cartoon. That's interesting. Yeah, like Scoob. Yeah, he did say that a lot. Now that I think about it, I wasn't really paying attention, but you're right. He does say that a lot.
It makes Spencer crazy in editing because I say it all the time. So yeah.
I think we kind of all do. That's so cool. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that episode. And that episode will be up Monday or?
No, this Monday, the 5th, is going to be listener ghost stories. And then on the 12th is going to be the Scooby-Doo episode.
Okay. Listeners' ghost stories this Monday. Ooh.
We got some really, really good ones. Yeah.
Okay. And do people, are there people that are on, or do they send them to you through email and you read them, or?
They email us. Yeah. So anyone out there who's listening right now and you have any ghost stories you want to share with us, horrorstalkhorror@gmail.com. Send us your ghost stories.
Very cool.
Yeah, the W one and then the H one.
Right.
Horrors
Yeah.
Talk Horror. Yes.
Yes. horrorstalkhorror@gmail.com. That's right. Before we jump over to questions here, I want to say a couple of things here, and I want you to tell me what are some of the first things that come to your mind. Okay. All right. Here we go. In terms of horror movies. All right. Okay. Now I'm not going to say like lettuce. I don't. Nothing. Not too random. And maybe some of these films you haven't seen. I don't know. Okay. But see, these are some of my favorites. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts, right?
Okay.
Whatever happened to Baby Jane?
We just did. I came up with this idea, not a great title, but an idea for episodes where we would watch older classics and review them. And that and Night of the Hunter were our first 2 movies that we did. What did we call it?
Movies that scared your grandparents.
But I grew up, aside from The Haunting, my mom loves Bette Davis. And so that's a classic that I've watched since I was a kid. And then I was so excited that Sharon got on board and enjoyed it and saw it, why it was such a classic.
Yeah, it is.
And fun fact about that movie that I found while we were preparing for that episode, Bette Davis did all of her own makeup for that film. And I guess when she first showed her daughter herself in costume and makeup, her mom said, "Oh, mother." Or what'd she say?
She said, "Oh, mother, this time you've gone too far."
This time you've gone too far.
This time.
Bette Davis she was great. Quick as a whip and sharp and yeah, you don't see too many. You don't see too many women like that. Like like in terms of just I should say actors, I guess. And she was fierce. Man, was she fierce. Yeah, I adore her. absolutely adore her. And of course, we all know the rivalry between her and Joan
Yep.
Crawford
Yeah.
and why that film was such sort of a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What was that quote? Oh, anyways, I'll try and think of it. It's just such a good movie. Such a good movie. The original Psycho.
Love it.
1960.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Do you
that
like-
was actually a classic. God, my family, they're to blame. My family's to blame for all of this, I realize. But I did
Mm.
watch that one too as a kid with my family.
Mhm. And yeah, we did an episode where we've done 2 episodes on this now. We took a non-horror movie
right.
fan and we made them watch 5 classic horror movies. And then we talked to them before they watched them and then after they watched them. And the original Psycho was one of them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you like Psycho 2?
I do actually.
I think it's a pretty damn good
it
sequel.
is really
Yeah.
good, surprisingly. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I
it's
just
pretty
watched
good.
that recently actually for the first time.
Yeah, it's considered as far as sequels go, it's considered pretty decent, like a very
Yeah.
good sequel, especially with the high expectations. Sunset Boulevard, which isn't really a horror per se, but it's got that little element to it.
It's similar to Baby Jane. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it. I like that movie.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Fantastic
say that's like a Baby Jane. I don't want to say spin-off because I know obviously
Hag horror.
right.
Yeah.
That was the term for it
Yeah.
back in
It
the
was.
day.
It was. Well, let's get this out of the way. Black Christmas.
Oh, that movie is
Ooh.
awful. No.
Terrible,
I don't
isn't
think
it?
I've ever seen it. No. Yes.
Yeah, no.
Obviously.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Black Christmas?
It was wrapping Christmas presents for one, because that's usually the movie I put on when I'm wrapping Christmas presents every
Okay.
year. But then it's also the first DVD I ever ripped because
Okay.
back in the day, I was subscribing to a certain DVD rental by mail service that people still subscribe to sometimes. And
Mhm.
I got the DVD of Black Christmas and didn't have a copy. And so I learned how to rip the DVD because I wanted a copy of Black Christmas.
Okay.
My answer was going to be the word cunt.
Yes, it was. Look, that's
I mean,
Hard second, Sharon. Hard second for me.
she's like wrapping Christmas presents. Cunt.
yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, especially in 1974.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean,
and
that was
abortions.
very,
I mean,
yeah.
It's like
Yeah, that's-
when I think the original Black Christmas, those are like kind of the 2 first things that pop.
And it's not like he says it once. He
Right.
says it a few times,
Oh,
and he
lots.
also what precedes it is Pretty Pink. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, he's got quite a it was quite involved. It's not like it's just off the cuff once and you're
Right.
like, oh, that's
Right.
that's kind of weird. No, it becomes part of sort of the main, like a minute or whatever in the opening there of the
Yeah.
film. Yeah, it's quite intense. We yeah, that's intense. So that's funny. I think of wrapping Christmas presents and I think of all this. Complete opposite, Sharon. Complete opposite. I love it. It's great.
I always like the juxtaposition of like getting ready for Christmas with like, you know, the stabbing with the ornament, the unicorn ornament and the Christmas carols
the
in the
Christmas
background.
carolers. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's such a great film. It's such a
Mhm.
great film. How about, I know you love that. I love that. What about The Descent from 2005?
Yes. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but I remember really liking it. I remember
Remember
it
that one?
being pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I
That's the
actually
one.
watched it within a year ago. I think it was just on some channel streaming and I put it on and I hadn't seen it in a while. I will never go rock climbing ever or cave diving ever.
No.
That's
No.
never
The
gonna happen.
claustrophobia in that is insane.
Yeah, it scares
Yeah.
the hell out of me, but like I'm like, not that I had this on my bucket list, but like I'm never ever going cave diving ever.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will. I actually have since not too long.
That's what
ago.
inspired you to do it, right?
Maybe. Well, we went. Spencer and I went blackwater rafting in the glowworm caves in New Zealand a few years ago, and it was there's some very tight areas that you go through, and it's pitch black, and you're like 300 feet underground or something. But it's amazing. It's an amazing experience.
That's
and then
intense.
the crazy little people come out and attack you.
No,
Yeah,
but they did say there might be eels in the water.
Wow.
Down there.
Friday the 13th. Any of them? What comes to mind when I say that title?
I mean, I'm a big fan. I guess out of Jason, Michael, and Freddy, Jason would be my least favorite.
Yeah.
But that's not like, it's just because Freddy's just so awesome. And I don't know, there's just something about Michael Myers right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just love Michael Myers. And I just love the original Halloween so much that, but
you haven't seen, have either of you seen the Halloween Kills trailer or no?
I won't watch
No.
it. No.
Right. Okay.
I'm not going to watch it. I want
No,
to
that's I
go
commend
in
you.
knowing
That's amazing.
nothing.
Right.
That's amazing. What about oh no, you touched on this. I was going to say Children of the Corn.
Love it.
She loves this movie. I love it too, but the first thing that comes to mind for me always is Outlander.
Right.
When big guys yelling.
I
That was
just-
the one we saw a lot when we were kids. We watched that a lot when we were little.
I just watched
That's
it
weird
for the
to
first time with my aunt, and then she scared the crap out of me afterwards. We after we watched the movie, she was like, "Do you want to walk with me to the mailbox? I have to go mail some letters." I'm like, "Sure." So we're walking, and it's nighttime in summer, and she'd be like, "What is that?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Those bushes are moving." She's like, "I think there's children in the bushes," and I'm just like, "Stop! Like, why are you doing this to me?"
That's great.
It was fun. Like I literally enjoy being scared. Like I love the feeling of being scared. So, but I always
so cool.
associate that and the smell of the suntan lotion that we were wearing
Aww.
while watching it. So I smell that suntan lotion now, and it right back there in that TV room watching that movie with her.
Aww.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what would you say are your favorite, and or they can be mutually exclusive, but not necessarily, is your favorite and or the best horror movies you guys have seen, you think is out there right now in the last 10 to 15 years?
10 to 15.
The best horror movies?
Best and or favorite. I mean, your favorite may be one that is obscure, independent, not a lot of people know about. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm a big Ari Aster fan, so Hereditary and Midsommar.
But also we're big fans of
Ty West, who hasn't done anything in a while. Hint, hint.
House of the Devil and The Innkeepers are great. Slow burn, creepy, legit scary, like builds tension. It's not just jump scares.
Yeah. And The Innkeepers, I always get about halfway through to this one point and I go, oh fuck, why did I decide to watch this? Because I get scared specifically if I'm not scared already at this one scene. So yeah, Ty West is awesome. Just because he, like Sharon said, he understands how to build tension.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
House of the Devil, really nothing happens for most of it.
Until the end, yeah.
But it doesn't matter because I was scared shitless the whole time because my imagination was going crazy. So yeah, I would say Ty West and Ari Aster are two of my favorites, I know.
So that leads well into my next question, which is, what is your favorite subgenre of horror? You have slasher, supernatural, psychological, there's, for me, when I was younger, when I was a kid, obviously, and a teenager, I loved the slasher genre, as a lot of kids do. And I still like it. It's not that I don't like it. I appreciate it. It's obviously not at the forefront. Well, of course you have Halloween, but I mean, in terms of where it was in the 80s, it's not like they're pumping out slashers every 5 seconds. So the subgenre is not really what it was in terms of volume years ago. Mm-hmm. But the older I get, the older I've gotten over the last 10 years or so, the more that I find that I'm coming into I think I always appreciated this, but I always knew there was something about this I liked and I wanted to appreciate when I was younger. But now that I'm older, and wiser and more mature, I have come to appreciate over the last 10 or 15 years, the more psychological thriller, psychological horror, much more than I think I ever have. So as you guys know, I'm all about slow burn, mood, and atmosphere. And if somebody says to me, yeah, not a lot happens in the movie until the end. I'm like, great, what is it? Let me watch it. I love that. Now that doesn't mean the movie is going to be good, but I love the idea of a slow burn, a slow drip, you know what I mean? And then building to something. I really like that. I love when it gets into my mind and plays with my psyche. Do you guys feel the same way, or what are some of your favorite subgenres?
Yeah, I'm a big slow burn fan. I like psychological horror, and like I'm thinking of like the categories on Shudder, the streaming service.
Right.
And supernatural horror, I tend to like. I feel like over slashers, but that's not always the case. That's not written in stone.
Right.
But one subgenre, I gotta say, I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for found footage. I am. I still am. I saw Blair Witch like when it previewed in Chicago before it went nationwide. And I remember it was like, that was like the first even like online marketing that anybody had really done in the way that they did. And I just remember leaving that theater and my one friend was crying and we weren't sure if it was real or not. And obviously now jig is up, but Host that came out on Shudder at the beginning of the pandemic was all done over Zoom. It was only like 50 some minutes long, but it was awesome and scary and combined two of those things.
Yes.
So when done well, I'm still a sucker for a good found footage ride.
What about you, Sharon?
Paranormal, I like a lot, and the psychological, but I'm a sucker for bad 70s and 80s slashers. I love it. Bad
70s and 80s slashers. Have you seen
I say bad because most of them just are.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true.
It's hard to find like a good one, but I just love just something about like 80s in general. I'm kind of obsessed with that decade.
Right.
I think it's like a comfort thing.
Yeah.
I liked that I lived during that time, and it was the time before digital. And you can have like a little bit of anonymity and just privacy. And it was like simpler times, especially as a child. And just, you saw the rise of like some technology before it went like totally nuts and was everywhere. So I just like the whole like simplicity of it.
Right.
But so 80s, 70s, Giallo, I've been getting into more.
Yes.
I really, really like.
I want her to watch The Evil Eye, which is, I'm blanking on who did that one now.
I can't remember, but I've seen that. That's a good movie.
Director. And John Saxon's in it too.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
But yeah,
at least I liked it.
Sharon's been on this kick, and so I'm like, well, I've got a movie you should watch.
I agree with you, Mindy, though, about the found.
Oh yeah,
footage.
Mario Bava. Sorry, Mario Bava did The Evil Eye. Go ahead, Dave.
Is that who it was?
Yeah.
I agree with you in regards to found footage. I think it is oversaturated, and I think that's why people have become sort of disinterested in it, because found footage should have been used in, I always found, and again, I'm speaking generally, there's obviously some out there that are not like this, but I've seen a lot of found footage movies that I think are too overly produced. And I think what was so great about the Blair Witch Project is that it was shot on 16 millimeter. A lot of now you have to have really good improvisers, obviously, but a lot of the dialogue was improvised. It felt organic. It felt gritty. It felt real. It's not an overly exciting movie. I mean, not a lot happens in there either, but it fooled a lot of people, not just because of the marketing. Right. And you're right, it was one of the first, if not the first, big marketing of that kind of thing for the internet age, and 1999. And, when you watch it, it's again, I mean, we've come so far in terms of what found footage is, but I don't think it fooled people. And it fooled a lot of people, not just because of the marketing,
right?
But because you really did, when you popped it on, it really plays like a home movie. It feels like a home movie. It doesn't feel overly produced, overperformed, overacted, overscore. Right. Well, there is no score. Over sound designed. When you watch a lot of found footage, and again, I'm speaking generally, but in a lot of the found footage movies I've seen today, there's a lot that are overly produced. I can tell that the sounds are actually not in the environment. Or that was one of my issues with the Blair Witch remake in 2016, or not the remake, but the sequel in 2016, is that it was more produced, better. It had more of a produced feeling, more polished, I should say.
Yeah.
And the sound design, it didn't feel like it was coming. It felt like it was added in, not in the sense that it was poor, but it felt overly produced, too polished, not organic and, gritty enough that the sound they were hearing in the woods was actually coming from within that space. And I think, and I've always said this, and again, I understand it's 2021. You gotta hype things up. You gotta over sensationalize. But I think it sadly is, and ironically, because it is so saturated, I think it is still untapped. I think there is a lot of untapped potential for a real, scary, genuinely frightening film that is found footage that would blow people away. I think part of the reason too is that people know it's not real. So when you go watch a found footage, there's also that psychological barrier too. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I agree with you. I've always thought that. And it's too bad that it's become more of a gimmick rather than a subgenre in of itself, because I think there's untapped potential
really
there.
great. Have you seen
Yeah,
Wreck?
Wreck was pretty good. Yes, I have.
I mean, it
think
wasn't
they made a
totally
Wreck
found
2.
footage in like, it's a little camera, it's a TV camera, but still, I will say there are some pretty spectacularly bad found footage movies on Amazon Prime specifically that I also quite enjoy. So I have to say bad found footage, depending.
Do you want to know why you might enjoy it though? Because it has more of an amateur home feel to it, I bet.
Well, there's these series of movies called Bad Ben that's made by this dude, and literally his home security and his cell phone. And they're intentionally bad, kind of, and I think those are hilarious and awesome.
She's been trying to get me to watch that.
That's so fun. Listen, can you guys stay just a few minutes longer? I just want to jump over to the chat room, maybe take a few questions for you guys.
Sure.
To see if there's anybody in the chat room. So if anybody in the chat room has questions for Sharon and Mindy, now would be the time to get your questions in there. I did see some a few moments ago. There was just 2 super chats that came in. Let me just see what they are here. You guys know Jason Nike. You've been on his channel. The J-Man's Movie Cave says, the best ladies ever. Sends in $2, says the best ladies ever. Well, I don't know about that. No, it's true. It's true. Red Foreman sends in $5 and says, hey, Dave, quick question. In Halloween 78, how did Loomis know to go to the cemetery? I love these questions. Well, probably because he knew that's where Judith Myers was buried. So he knows Myers inside and out. He's known him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, waiting for inhumanly patient. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized living behind that door. He knows him. He knows him really, really well. So when you know somebody really, really well and you're trying to look for that person, you go, where would this person go? So
I think we should do an episode where we have Dave reenact all of the Halloween movies with just his voice. Fast like that. Fast forward.
Like the Micro Machines man.
Yeah.
Oh, Micro Machine. Yeah, God. I remember that guy. He was fast, man. Did he ever talk fast? Holy jeez.
Competition?
I couldn't talk that fast. There's no way. I can talk pretty quick, though. I've been able to get in at the end of a voiceover script. I've been able to get in 15 seconds of legal copy in 5, which is pretty. I've been able to do it. It's tight. It's tight. Sometimes they have to speed me up a little bit, though.
Wow.
Darren, one of my great moderators here and co-host of the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast, another podcast people should check out. Darren says, Dave, have the whores seen Tigers Are Not Afraid, an amazing Mexican ghost story movie that came out last year. Absolutely chilling. Darren, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. Thank you for sending that my way just now. I have to check that out. Ladies, have you seen this movie?
I have. I watched it because we do a yearly horror movie roundup every year at the end of the year, obviously, and we watched it for 2020.
You watched it. That was one of the ones I did not, but it's on my list.
I loved it. I cried for a good portion of it, but it was also very good, but in a good way. And I was in it from the start. like the
Wow.
opening shot. So I highly recommend it.
Is it dubbed, subtitled, or in English?
It's subtitled, original voices with the subtitles. Yeah.
Okay.
And Shudder is how I saw it.
Okay, Tigers Are Not Afraid. Well, I'm in. I got to check this out now. I have to check this out. That sounds really, really cool. Nick sends in $5. Thank you. Nick says, throughout all of your watching of horror flicks, which one really stood out to you to have been potentially a huge horror property, but fell short? That's a good question, actually.
That is a good question.
To be a huge.
Could you reread the question again, please?
Yeah.
I feel like we're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Okay, all right. Throughout all of your watching of horror flicks, which one really stood out to you to have been potentially a huge horror property, but fell short?
I mean, besides The Conjuring 3 that we just watched.
Oh yeah. Well, that already
hear
is a huge horror property, technically.
I hear it's not very good.
Yeah. Let me think about that one for a minute.
I know that's a hard one. I know
It's tough.
Oh, I'm blanking. The movie about the cabin, not Cabin in the Woods, but the movie with
the other horror movie about the cabin
that we.
Oh, that didn't fall short.
No, but I was gonna say, not a movie that fell short, but a movie that I would have hoped would have gotten more exposure.
Oh,
what was the name of that movie? I'm blanking.
Murder in the Woods.
Murder in the Woods. We got to interview the writer and director of that film, and it's all Latinx cast and crew, basically.
Amazing.
And Danny Trejo, it's a funny story, and they tell it in our episode, but they got him to come in for this really quick cameo. And it's a simple premise, but I really, really loved the movie. You know, a bunch of kids go up to a cabin in the woods to party, shit happens, but it was just done through it was nice to hear a different voice telling a horror story like that.
And it took in like the culture and the spirituality of the culture and intertwined it into the story. And yeah, it was good. And you don't hear a lot of people talk about it. So I guess that would be one.
It didn't fall short, but I wish it would have caught on more and more people would have seen it. Because I thought it was really, really good and better than I was expecting.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Nick follows up with another one and says, ladies, thank you, Nick, by the way, for the super chat. Ladies, we've been laughing quite a bit throughout the show. So that leads me to my next question. Can I get 1, 2, maybe 3 of your all-time comedy flicks?
Of our all-time what?
Comedy flicks.
Comedy flicks. Okay.
Oh, well, oh God.
I'm going to go with Caddyshack, because that movie makes me laugh every time I watch it. And if you have the anniversary edition, which is it like the 20th or 25th or 30th, I don't know. But there's behind the scenes, there's discussions with like the cast and crew, and that is also like just as funny as the actual movie. But Caddyshack is just kind of like one of those perfect comedies.
We had Caddyshack on beta. When
you were showed me Caddyshack for the first time when we were little. You showed me the candy bar scene in the pool.
Yeah, that was another favorite of my parents, because they're big. My mom's a huge Bill Murray fan, and I would say Ghostbusters too as well. Like the first one, that movie still makes me laugh.
It's a great movie. I wouldn't really say it like,
but Caddyshack and then Meatballs, the summer camp movie with Bill Murray. That was a family favorite. And it's funny, as an adult, like you do go back and realize, like there have been times where I was like, I can't believe my mom let me watch that.
Oh yeah.
Like when now I understand what that means. Oh my God. But it went right over my head as a kid.
Of course.
But Clue, the movie Clue, which like the all-star cast of like everybody, Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, that another old time favorite, but that movie still, I quote it daily.
Best in Show, that movie.
That
makes me cry.
Anything.
I'm laughing so hard.
Yeah, anything by that team or the team, the Wet Hot American Summer team.
Yes, there we go. Those are my top 3: Wet Hot American Summer, Caddyshack, and Best in Show. Top 3 comedies. right
I'm
now.
trying to think of a third one for me. I know the question wasn't to me, but my two of my favorite comedies of all time are I think my favorite comedy of all time is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with
It's a
Steve
great
Martin
one.
and John Candy, and I adore that movie. I think it's just it's the absurdity of it. You know, when he's on the plane and he's like, he pulls out a little booklet and he's got little shower curtain rings in there, and it's just it's so stupid. It's so great. And then next in line for me is another Chevy Chase film, which is the original Vacation from 1983, the one where they go to Wally World. I think that's just hilarious. I think it's because Chevy Chase reminds me of my father. and that is the kind of situation that would have happened. I think I don't know if I was born yet. If I was very young, but I remember my mother telling me a story about how my dad, they went to the drive-in. And of course, this was way back in the day, as you guys remember, when the drive-in speaker would be on the outside of your car. You wouldn't, or you'd hook it to the outside of your car, whatever. You weren't hearing it. I mean, now you listen through the radio, right? But it was in the summer. And of course, you had to have your window down in order to hear the movie. And so my dad went out and he put mosquito netting around the car or whatever. And, but he mosquito netted himself out of the car. And it's like, and my mother is in the car and the family's in the car and we're all looking at him and he's looking at us. And it's like totally something Chevy Chase would do in like a vacation movie. You know what I mean? So
That's
I
awesome.
adore those two films as well. But anything
Fletch is
from
a
like,
good one too. Do you like Fletch?
oh, well, my dad was a journalist.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes, there's very Fletch things my father has done.
Okay.
So I like that movie too. Yeah. Fletch for sure is great. There's a lot of great. I don't know. I tend to. It's not that there aren't funny movies today, but I tend to appreciate more of the older comedies than I do modern. Like anything in the last 20 years. It's not that there aren't some funny movies here or there,
Right.
but I don't know what it is. I find that we're in a situation now where it's more about being, I don't know, maybe gross, or I don't know. I really appreciate sort of the more smarter kind of slapsticky, wittier humor, but not that it doesn't exist, but yeah, I thought that was funny. Jim Lakowski, am I saying that right? Jim, if I'm
Hi.
butchering it,
What's up,
well,
Jim?
you guys know Jim. Okay.
We do know Jim.
Is it Lakowski?
Yeah. He's a film
Lakowski.
critic too. So
Wonderful. What up, Jim? What's going on, Jim? Mr. Film Critic. Everybody be on your best behavior here. Great to see you here, Jim. Sends in $4.99. Thank you very much, buddy. Says, I recommend Lake Mungo and Bob Clark's Death Dream. I have seen Death Dream. That's really good. I thought it was good. Also, which horror film of the past would you like to see be remade?
Ooh.
So first half was recommend Lake Mungo, which I haven't seen.
That's
and Bob
really
Clark's
good.
Death Dream. Is it really good?
I just saw it recently, and Sharon's like, everybody knows about Lake Mungo, Mindy. And I was
don't.
like,
I've
But
never
I
heard of it.
haven't seen it. I just know everyone says it's amazing, and it's you know what? I'm watching it tonight.
it's found
Watching it
footage,
today.
and yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
Oh my God. If I'd have known that, I would have made you put it on.
All right.
Yes, watch Lake Mungo.
Okay.
I'll go with what I want to be remade.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know.
So there's this movie called The Funeral Home.
Oh,
That is a pretty decent movie. It reminds me a bit of Psycho, and it was made, I think, in 1980. And we actually discussed it. We had an episode called Bad 80s Horror Movies, where
Okay.
we just picked like 5 or 6 of like the lowest rated 80s horror movies on IMDb and watched them.
like some of my suggestions got booted because they had too many stars. I'm not even kidding.
Like, no, this has 5.4 stars. That's too high. And one of them was Funeral Home, and I actually enjoyed it, but the quality of it, because I think I watched it on Amazon,
yeah.
it looked like a VHS tape that had been played 1,000 times. It was horrible. So I was like, if someone could remake this and just make it like good quality and not like keep it in that era, because I think one of the things that's made it work was it took place in the 80s before like cell phones and technology.
Right.
I would love to see that. And it's not a movie that's so popular. It's like, ugh, like why is this being remade?
Right.
And most people have never seen it or heard of it.
See, folks, and I want to say this, and again, I sincerely mean this. And this is part of the reason why. When you ask a question, there's been a lot of titles that you've said today that I have either not heard of or I have heard of, but have yet not seen. And this is to my earlier point about how you guys are, two ladies who are intelligent horror fans. You're not sitting there just talking about, not that there's anything wrong with Michael Myers, folks, okay? Not that I know we are a Michael Myers Halloween channel, but it's great to see you guys talking about horror movies and a broad spectrum, foreign, domestic, independent, studio, dubbed, not dubbed, found, like you guys really have, you do love the genre, and you can talk intelligently about not just what's popular, but what maybe isn't popular or people haven't heard of. And that's, I get, that's what I like about talking to you ladies is that it's the spectrum for which you come at it from. And I don't mean to insinuate that, you know it all or like, but I just mean that it's well,
we'll be the first ones to say that.
Yes, you do. Yes. No, but it's, I like the variety, and that's what I think is cool is that when I ask you, what's your top 3 favorite, horror movies, generally speaking, you're going to get somebody go, Scream, Elm Street, Friday. There's nothing wrong with that. If those are your top 3, that's great. But there's so much horror out there that the more exposed you are to, the more horror there is, the less likely, not that there's anything wrong with it. If you're exposed, and again, when I say you, I'm not talking about you, I mean the collective you, right? All of us, when you are exposed to so much, if Scream, Friday, and Elm Street are your top 3, well, that's great. But the more that you are exposed to, the more that you realize, wow, there's a lot of dog shit out there too, but there's a lot of good stuff out there as well. I mean, I just saw Whatever Happened to Baby Jane for the first time, maybe about 5 years ago. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and that wouldn't have been that wouldn't be on my list 5 years ago. Right. So it's that kind of thing where, I've always wanted to see it, but I never got around to it until about 5 years ago. And we loved it so much that the last time we were in LA, we went over to the Baby Jane home where they shot it, and we got our photo taken there and all that kind of stuff. And, it's that kind, and there's so many, I mean, like there's Hammer films and foreign films, Japanese horror. Yeah. And I mean, there's so much out there that I really appreciate your ability to be exposed to that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So
we have a listener in Germany named Eric who wrote us this incredible message on YouTube, and he recommended like so many like Hammer horror films and Giallo, and I have like a whole huge new list now that I've never seen before with all his recommendations. So there's just too much to watch and have a day job.
It's true.
Yeah.
And
then we got Shudder, and then it's all over. I will say, to Jim's question, I don't have a movie that I can think of that I would like remade, but I will say that Sharon brought this to my attention. I didn't want to watch the When a Stranger Calls remake because that original was one that my aunt had shown me when I was little. And Sharon was like, no, she had the remake, and was like, no, you need to watch it. And I was actually really impressed by how good it was. They did a really good job modernizing it, I thought. And it was still scary.
You're talking about the 2006 film, right?
I can't remember what year, but Camille Bell, I think.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
2006.
People hate that movie. That movie gets so much hate. Her performance.
I don't understand it.
I don't get it either.
I totally agree with you. I went to see that it was either my birthday or Bruce's birthday. And Bruce, my buddy Bruce, who of course you guys know, who my partner in crime on It's Me, Billy, his birthday's in February and my birthday is in May. So I think it was for his birthday. If this movie came out in like January, February, then it was for his. But I remember going to see it with him because I liked the first film a lot, actually. I mean, the middle's a bit slow, but certainly it's a classic film. And we went and saw the remake, and the only thing I would have, well, I haven't seen it in quite a few years, so I don't know if that's changed. But I remember on first watching it when we left the theater, the only thing that I would have done differently, or at least a big thing, was at the very end of the movie when he's in, because he's actually caught and he's in the back. I think this is this film. Maybe I'm wrong. He's in the back of the police car and you just see his silhouette, but then his silhouette, suddenly he comes into some light and you see his face. The first time you see his face, I don't think that's necessary. I think you could have taken him off in the car in the silhouette and you never know what he looks like.
Yeah.
Now that's just a creative choice, but I still to this day do not understand what, I'm not saying it's a phenomenal piece of cinema, but I don't as far as remakes go, I don't understand how or why the 2006 When a Stranger Calls gets the hated. I think it's a very serviceable, solid remake.
What they did with that house, the way
my
they made
God.
the space work and the lighting and the motion sensor lighting, and how you never know if it's like the cat I think there was a cat in it that was moving around, so triggering lights. And then that room in the middle, the atrium in the middle with oh my God, I was
great.
like blown away. I thought it was great. Scary, legitimately scary. It built tension. It did not just rely on jump scares. I don't get it.
Do you remember they also it's because it was a mansion of sorts, right? Modern on this lake, but there was also like that guest house as well that they utilized that never really came to be anything, which is great. You can see like a light on and she goes out to, investigate just to build the suspense. And whenever you have anybody, and it's usually a damsel in distress, that's just kind of the trope, but whether it's one girl or two or three, whenever you have them in an isolated location, in a big home where it's just them or you versus whoever is hiding they could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? They could be anywhere. And there's something about that is frightening, and then I thought it was good. I mean, again, I haven't seen it in a few years, but I purchased it. I liked it enough to buy it. So as far as that goes, I thought it was great. Let's we'll go 3 more minutes. That'll take us to 1:50 p.m. here, and that's a good time to skedaddle. So let me see here. I want to see if I miss anything. Your buddy there from California, Muhammad Ramadan, says remake of House on Haunted Hill. He thinks is, I guess, pretty good.
I haven't seen it, actually.
I don't know if I've seen the remake. I've seen the original House on Haunted Hill, which I really like.
I'm not sure if he's talking about the original or not.
Muhammad, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about, my
Call
man?
us later, Muhammad.
Right now, he's like, those two dumb bitches.
Right?
It's true. You know what American remake of a Japanese film that I actually really liked? I think it should have ended maybe 15 minutes before it did. It's fine that it didn't, but again, is a remake that I thought the sequel was atrocious. Okay. But I thought The Ring from 2002
The Ring's wonderful.
was a very good American remake.
I agree.
Of a terrific Japanese film.
I make the joke all the time that Japanese and Korean horror movies will traumatize you for life, but they kind of will, because they are so scary. I actually own Ringu, the Japanese version.
Yeah, from 98, I believe.
Spencer on a point during one of our trivia episodes recently, because I hadn't seen Ringu in a long time.
Yeah.
And he asked a question that we got wrong, which I'm still kind of bitter about, but that's okay. But the American version was surprisingly really well done.
It was. I personally thought that, and again, I haven't seen it in a few years, so I have to go back and watch it, but I remember thinking that maybe it should have ended when they discovered, when she's in the bottom of the well and her body is there and it fades to a skeleton. It feels, and then they're at the ambulance. And I know you have that last part where she's actually coming out of the TV and, you have that last little thing that a lot of horror movies do, but it felt like that would have been a nice conclusion, that they saved her. She's gone on now. maybe ended it on like a nice note, you know, where it actually does feel like a complete story in and of itself,
Right.
rather than leaving it on this woman. But then you wouldn't have get that great shot of her coming out of the television. And I get that. I get it.
Yeah, but the Ringu though, when she comes out of the television, the Japanese do that scene so much better. It scares me so hardcore.
Yeah, it's a great. But that American film, like The Ring, is
But it was good.
genuinely creepy. I remember when this is 2002, I believe that's when it came out. I remember when I first watched it. Now, of course, you see this kind of thing all the time in horror, or you started to throughout the 2000s. But that scene where at the beginning, it begins with those two girls, right? And then when they go to investigate, they open up the closet and you see her face tilt back.
Yes.
The scariest shit I had seen in my life up to that point.
Yeah.
And it's so quick, and it's just like, what the fuck? What happened? You know what I mean? The life was literally sucked out of her. Absolutely wild. Absolutely.
No one saw that part coming. Yeah, that got me.
Yeah.
creepy as heck. Okay, last question. Kevin Morris sends in $5. Says, Dave, are you? Oh, maybe this is just for me. Dave, you are sitting next to. Oh no, here we go. Dave, you are sitting next to two of the most beautiful souls on earth.
Aww.
And I think you are amazing. The first the first YouTuber I ever subscribed to. Me or them? Maybe it's me.
You.
Maybe it's me. I have no idea. Maybe it's me. Well, I appreciate that you subscribe to me first, and I have no doubt Mindy and Sharon appreciate the kind words, Kevin. I assume you're talking about them and not.
That's the
me
Kevin
sitting
we were
next to
talking
Michael
about
Myers.
earlier, who is a fan of yours and ours.
Oh, that's the Kevin. Oh yeah, Kevin. I know. I've seen Kevin in here many times.
Yeah.
Yep. Kevin Morris. I recognize the last name.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yay, thanks,
Yeah,
Kevin.
you're amazing, Kevin. Such nice words. Well, listen, ladies, I really appreciate your time today. This was a lot of fun to get to know you guys and to get to know, a bit about your history and your backstory and what makes you guys tick, and to know a little bit about, the podcast, but also what has influenced you in horror, what has inspired you, what horror movies you like, how broad your horror tastes are. I think it's fascinating to learn all about that. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time today to come on and talk to me.
Thank you for having us.
We
My
know the
gosh.
real reason why you asked us to do this. This is our screen test for It's Me, Billy 2.
Right.
Right.
No. Right.
You're sneaky,
Yes.
but I caught on.
Well, I just, it's how we audition. That's how we got Victoria and everybody too. We're just like, hey, we'll just have them come on and we'll fake it. We'll fake it. Listen, I mean, obviously we haven't begun writing that film yet, but if there was ever a way to get you guys in there, I think that would be hilarious. I mean, like in a good way.
Number 2 and 3.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's right. That would be so much fun. That'd be so much fun. And hopefully, if It's Me, Billy
Bodies in the
continues to do
cellar.
well, we can bookend the story, because there's a lot. There's don't think you know it all yet, folks.
Ooh.
Well, don't say that, because now I'm going to be hanging, and you know how I feel about that.
Well, I just mean that there's more to the story. There's more to be told. You know what I mean? That
Well, I wanna
connects to
hear
the
it.
original, of course. I bet you do. Stick around. We'll have our sort of formal goodbye after we go off the air.
Okay.
But I will. What's going to happen is that it's going to go to the Patreon card. You'll see me kind of just sitting here for a moment until that goes, and then we'll have our formal goodbye kind of thing. If you guys are okay with that. Folks, thank you very much for tuning in today. Thank you to my great moderators, of course, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber, for doing what you guys do each and every show. It is amazing. It does not go unappreciated. You guys are awesome. Thank you to the Super Chat questions that came in today. Appreciate that. If we didn't get to your questions, no worries at all. We'll try and get to them next time. Ladies, I forgot to ask you this. I admit it was just an oversight. I wanted to get your info to your YouTube channel and your Spotify, Apple iTunes, whatever it is. Maybe Sharon or Spencer, you guys can send me that in an email as like a list.
Yep.
And then what I'll do is I will put it into the description in this video as well.
Great.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
thank
people
you.
can just click and go boom, 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 boom.
Thank you.
And on social media, it's Horrors Talk Horror Facebook. Is that what it is?
Horrors Talk Horror on Instagram, which I use mostly. I'm rarely on Twitter or Facebook. But yeah, Horrors Talk Horror, I think on Facebook, and I think it's Horrors at so, I don't know. You can just type in horror. Horrors horror on Twitter.
Horrors horror.
And then so mostly Horrors Talk Horror on Instagram is where you can find us, and we're on every imaginable podcast streaming platform out there. And yeah, if you have any like ghost stories, true crime stories, anything you want to share with us, you can email us at horrorstalkhorror@gmail.com.
It's always the W one first and then the H one.
Amazing. Folks, please go and support them. They are great. You're going to learn a thing or two about horror movies you've never heard of or seen. So please do that. Ladies, thank you again so much. Folks, I will be back Monday night at 7:00 p.m. Oh, no, at 6:00 p.m., actually. Usually Two Dudes and Some Bullshit is on at 7. We're doing 6 p.m. this Monday night where we're watching Independence Day. Myself and Tony will be watching Independence Day, 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday night episode. I don't know what we're up to, 116 or something like that of that show. Have a great rest of your weekend. Happy 4th of July, ladies. Happy 4th of July to my American brothers and sisters south of the border. And I will talk to you guys soon. Alrighty.
Bye.
Cheers.